Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear. To support and defend. The Constitution of the United States. Against all enemies. Foreign and domestic. And to bear true faith. And allegiance to the same. That I will obey. The orders of. The President of the United States. And the orders of. Those officers. Appointed over me. According to regulations. And the Uniform Code of Military Justice. So help me God.
We celebrate Veterans Day on the anniversary of the armistice that ended World War I. The armistice that began on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. The timing of this holiday is quite deliberate in terms of historical fact. But somehow it always seems quite fitting to me that this day comes deep in autumn when the colors are muted and the days seem to invite contemplation. It is, in a way, an odd thing to honor those who died in defense of our country, in defense of us, in wars far away. The imagination plays a trick. We see these soldiers in our mind as old and wise, but most of them were boys when they died, and they gave up two lives, the one they were living and the one they would have lived. When they died, they gave up their chance to be husbands and fathers and grandfathers. They gave up their chance to be revered old men. They gave up everything for our country, for us. And all we can do is remember. I will not fail thee, nor forsake thee. In memory of those who gave the last full measure of devotion, may our efforts to achieve lasting peace gain strength. Let us make a vow to our dead. Let us show them by our actions that we understand what they died for. Strengthened by their courage, heartened by their value, and borne by their memory, let us continue to stand for the ideals for which they lived and died.
In the long history of the world, only a few generations have been granted the role of defending freedom in its hour of maximum danger. I do not shrink from this responsibility. I welcome it. I do not believe that any of us would exchange places with any other people or any other generation. The energy, the faith, the devotion which we bring to this endeavor will light our country and all who serve it. We shall pay any price, bear any burden, meet any hardship, support any friend, oppose any foe to assure the survival and the success of liberty.
Good morning and welcome to West Ottawa High School's 2021 Veterans Day Assembly. Today it is an important day as we gather to acknowledge and celebrate all of the men and women who have proudly served our country. As we set to begin the ceremony, please notice the Vietnam Memorial Wall to my left. Set up by the local Vietnam War Veterans Chapter 73, the memorial is dedicated to honor the 2,661 men and women of the state of Michigan who lost their lives in the Vietnam War. Just a few weeks ago, the former United States Secretary of State, Colin Powell, passed away at the age of 84 years. Powell, born in New York City, parents who had immigrated from Jamaica, was a professional soldier for 35 years, with his last position as Joint Chiefs of Staff Chairman, the highest military position in the United States Department of Defense. Colin Powell, one of the most decorated service members of our generation, remarked these words in 1989 at Arlington National Cemetery. "The nation owes a great debt to its veterans, whose service to the nation spans every decade, every year, every day of our country's existence. Through untold courage and sacrifice, America's veterans have secured the liberty which the Founding Fathers sought to establish. In times of darkness and danger, as well in times of peace and prosperity, America's veterans have been there. And we are so lucky to have veterans with us here today. Please help me welcome our local heroes." please remain standing for the presentation of our colors, the Star-Spangled Banner, and the Pledge of Allegiance.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight for the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming? And the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting gave through the night, that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the
Please join with me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated.
Good morning. Thank you, West Ottawa Band and Choir, for that beautiful performance. Let's give them one more round of applause. Veterans Day is a tribute to military veterans who have served in the U.S. Armed Forces of the United States. The armed forces include Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps, Coast Guard, National Guard, both active and reserved, and those who served with honorable discharge. These brave individuals made sacrifices for their country to defend our democracy by taking an oath to protect our Constitution against all enemies, both foreign or domestic. They sacrificed so much so that you and I can live under the freedoms afforded to us by the Constitution of the United States of America. And so today, we take time as a school and community to say thank you for all that you have done and sacrificed. Serving in the United States military means to give selflessly, and sometimes it means to sacrifice everything for your country. As we take time to honor these veterans, I would like to take a few moments to honor a very special group of veterans. Will all of the Vietnam veterans please stand? Those who served during the Vietnam War were not welcomed home with honor and respect they needed or deserved, despite their sacrifice and their service for their country. To all of you who served in the Vietnam War, I want you to know that I am grateful for you. Thank you for your service and the sacrifices you made and continue to make due to the effects of war. And welcome home. I would like to take another moment to recognize not only our veterans, but also their family and friends. Would any student, staff, or community member who has a family member, friend, or neighbor who has served or is currently serving in the military, please stand now. There are ordinary heroes who have an extraordinary impact on our lives and our community. Please join me in thanking the family and friends who have supported the veterans among us. It is now my honor to recognize our veterans this morning. Veterans, when I read your name, please stand and remain standing. Audience, please hold your applause until all the veterans' names have been read. John Fallu, U.S. Army. James Root, Navy. Gary D. Edwards, Navy Seabee. Daniel Paul Kleintop, U.S. Navy. Wayne Postma, Navy. Renardo Solanas, Jr., United States Marine Corps. Faith Gibson, Army. Faith Gibson is also here in honor of Bobby Gibson, Army. Robert Garcia, Army. Danny Voss, Navy. Tony Youngblood, U.S. Navy. Vic Grassmanis, Army. Yuli Hermiller, U.S. Navy. Ryan Klingman, Marine Corps. Danny Miller, Navy. David Rasmussen, Army. Stephen Sandstead, U.S. Navy. Rich Vandepels, U.S. Navy and U.S. Coast Guard. Catherine Hoekstra, class of 2016, Navy. Brian Glover, U.S. Navy. Bill Stahauer, Army. Raymond Klamparns, Army. Michael Anthony Pokorski, U.S. Army. Kenneth Wiley, Navy. Norm Lietzma, Army. Larry Rosema, Army. Larry A. Brewer, Air Force, Armed Guard. Edward J. Garcia, U.S. Marine Corps. Delwyn Mokma, Army. Robert Van Dyke, Navy Sea Base. Maximilian Garcia, United States Marine Corps. Frederick C. Trost, Army. Bill Ricketts, Army. Ralph Lindholm, Army. Robert F. Prinz, Army. Nathan Townsend, Air Force. A. Patsy Fabiano, U.S. Army. Warren Millett, U.S. Army. Jim Smith, Navy. Carl Van Dam, Army. Katrina Van Pompering, Army. Rod Van Loo, Army. Terry Rose Beck, Army. Ken Holler, U.S. Air Force. Delwyn L. Westenbrook, Army. Dennis Mercer, Army. Oscar Lietzma, U.S. Marine Corps. And Kathy Bowl is here in honor of Dennis Joseph Bowl, U.S. Army. West Ottawa High School, please join me in thanking the veterans gathered here today for serving their country.
We have gathered here today to observe Veterans Day and to honor the brave men and women who have fought to maintain peace and freedom for all others. Beginning with the War of 1812, nearly 40 million people have been called to serve in our nation's military during times of war. The 16 million who served in World War II were an average age of 26 years old, and 2/3 of those men were drafted. The 8.7 million who served in Vietnam were an average age of 22. That is just a few years older than most students here today. 2/3 of those men willingly risked their lives and volunteered. 70% of those who died were volunteers. Currently, there are approximately 1.5 million active military personnel with an additional 1 million military personnel on reserve. There are over 22 million veterans living in the United States today. Nearly every one of us here today knows someone who has served or is serving our country in a branch of the armed forces. Here today to remind us of the importance of Veterans Day is West Ottawa student Eleanor Irvine.
Stories of war have been the subject of many of the greatest literary, cinematic, poetic, and artistic works of our time. Movies such as All Quiet on the Western Front or Platoon have been honored with Academy Awards for Best Picture. Books about war, such as All the Light We Cannot See, have won the Pulitzer Prize for Literature. Most of us here today have learned about, read books about, or seen movies about war. We have watched documentaries and films in U.S. and world history, such as Saving Private Ryan. We have read personal accounts of war, like Elie Wiesel's Holocaust memoir Night, or Tim O'Brien's Vietnam War novel, The Things They Carried, in our English classes. America has a fascination with these stories of war. Most of us here today know someone who has served in the military. For me, it is my grandfather and my great-grandmother. My grandpa, who served in the Vietnam War twice, is also here today. He has never spoken much about his personal experience in Vietnam, which is the case with many veterans of the Vietnam War. My great-grandmother served as a nurse in World War II. She was only 21, not much older than a senior in high school, when she volunteered. Several years ago, I asked my great-grandma if she would be willing to let me interview her for a school project on World War II. She agreed, and I listened as she recounted what she could remember of her time in the service. She described the acute suffering she witnessed, and recalled how she and other nurses were given medication to be able to cope with the things they saw. She told me the ways she healed the injured and sick soldiers. She smiled as she remembered one soldier she met who drew a portrait of her. My family still has that portrait today. I remember her saying to me, with credence in her voice and certainty in her eyes, "War is hell." It is important to honor the stories of our veterans and listen to them if you have the chance. To be able to gather these stories from outside sources is a privilege that we do not always recognize. Whether it be from books or movies or from hearing personal recollection, learning through others' experiences will never equate to actually experiencing what they did. Even many years after their service, veterans sustain the physical and emotional repercussions from their active duty. They carry this weight selflessly so that others do not have to. The act of willingly fighting for one's country is one of true selflessness. All of those who served put themselves in a place of vulnerability to keep others in a place of security. It is important that we do not take this security for granted. We may not be able to comprehend the intensity of what our veterans endured, but we can and we must honor that everything they did was in pursuit of the greater good, the preservation of our rights. Today we remember that America is the land of the free because of the brave. Today we find common ground amidst the political division that plagues today's America. Today we forge unison in our division by honoring those who served this country. We honor their stories and the many stories that remain untold. Today we commemorate those who died fighting, those who cannot tell their stories, and those who have served our nation. One thing we can be sure of is that each person who fought for our country, living and non-living, is an essential part of the story of our nation and our freedom. And so, on behalf of the students and staff of West Ottawa High School, I say thank you for your service. We will always remember your stories.
We gather here today to commemorate and to honor all those living and dead for their sacrifices in preserving peace, liberty, and justice. Helping us pay tribute to our West Ottawa veterans are 9 current West Ottawa students. Following each tribute, there will be a moment of silence. Please hold all applause.
Today, we honor Daniel M. Arizmendes, a member of the class of 1965. Daniel was the son of Carlos y Linda Arizmendes and the brother of Rebecca, Carmen, and Larry. While at West Ottawa High School, Dan played football, ran track, and became president of the Knights Club, an organization that raised money to aid in school activities. Many remember Dan as a gifted artist. Dan was also very well liked and admired by his peers. When Dan turned 18, he immediately joined the Marines and was sent to Vietnam to fight. Dan encountered no problems during his first tour of duty and could have come home to stay. Instead, he chose to return to Vietnam to fight in his second tour of duty. Marine Corporal Daniel M. Arizmendes died in the vicinity of Guam Nam on May 29, 1968, while serving his country. He was 22 years old.
Today we honor Robert J. Westrait, a member of the class of 1966. He was the son of Chester and Nellie Westrait and the second oldest of 6 children. While in high school, Robert participated in intramural sports in the Future Farmers of America Club his sophomore, junior, and senior years. Robert attended North Holland Reformed Church and was president of his youth group. He was a quiet, well-liked individual with a ready smile. Robert enlisted in the Army as an engineer in February of 1967, and his courage earned him the Purple Heart when he was wounded in action in December of that same year. 6 months later, Army Specialist 4th Class Robert J. Westrait died in Vietnam on June 7, 1968, while serving his country. He was 19 years old.
Today we honor Terry Robert Meyer, a member of the class of 1965. He was the son of Mr. and Mrs. Robert V. Meyer of Holland and had 2 brothers, Jeff and Mark, and a sister, Susan. Terry was very athletic throughout his high school, playing football for 1 year, basketball and baseball for 4 years, and running cross country for 3. Terry had high goals for himself. He was a hard worker. His ability in athletics illustrated this, and he was very determined. He never was in the spotlight, but he enjoyed being a member of the team. After high school, Terry Meyer joined the Army and served with the 1st Infantry Division. Sergeant Terry Robert Meyer died near Di An, Vietnam on August 13, 1968, while serving his country. He was 21 years old.
Today we honor Robert Edwin Knoll, a member of the class of 1965. He was the only son of Bernard and Louis Knoll, and brothers to sister Jennifer, Margie, and Valerie. Bob was extremely people-oriented. His friends said he had a good sense of humor and a kind heart. Bob was also intelligent, and that was one of the reasons people followed him. These qualities made Bob a good soldier. Bob was drafted into the Army in 1967. On a required military test, Bob earned the highest score ever to come out of the Detroit testing area. Because he did so well, he was offered the opportunity to enter flight school, which would require further training, but he chose to go to Vietnam to be with his buddies. Sergeant Knoll's quick actions and successful leadership earned him the Bronze Star Medal for heroism. He was commended for his exceptional courage, professional skill, and exemplary devotion to duty. Army Sergeant Robert Edwin Knoll died in Vietnam on September 27, 1968, while serving his country. He was 20 years old.
Today we honor Robert Ray Buskell, a member of the class of 1969. He was the son of Mr. and Mrs. Ray Buskell and brother to Betty. As a student, Robert was involved in many extracurricular activities, which included Spanish club, choir, football, and baseball. Outside of school, his other personal interests included bowling, working on cars, and playing in a band. He enjoyed the outdoors and participated in scouting and many other outdoor sports, such as hunting, archery, and fishing. He was also active in Rose Park Reformed Church. After high school, Robert joined the United States Army and was assigned to Vietnam. He left Holland on May 11, 1970, and was in South Vietnam for only 22 days. Private First Class Robert Ray Buskell died in South Vietnam on June 6, 1970, while serving his country. He was 19 years old.
Today we honor Stephen Brink, a member of the class of 1977. During high school, Stephen liked to play football and enjoyed being around others. Stephen was an all-around people person, and his mother says one word to describe Stephen was loving. Stephen had a love for flying. It was his life. He received his private pilot's license at age 16. He wasn't at school. He was at a Park Township airport, working there as well as learning to fly. After graduating from West Ottawa, Stephen joined the Army and was an airplane mechanic, ranking as corporal. Stephen was stationed at Norfolk, Virginia, for 1.5 years. On September 15, 1979, Stephen flew home from his Army base outside Washington, D.C. with his fiancée, Robin Sibley, to surprise his mother for his 20th birthday. On the flight home, the airplane caught fire and the plane crashed near Hastings, Michigan. He was only 20 years old.
Today we honor Russell Terry King, a member of the class of 1974. Terry, as he was known, moved to Holland at the age of 2 with his family, which included 8 other children. Terry enjoyed art very much. Painting provided a form of expression for him. Terry's teachers remember him as talkative and lively and a pleasure to have in class. Terry's friends remember his fun-loving personality and his enjoyment of life. Terry entered the Navy after graduating in 1974 and served as an electrician aboard the USS Dagrin. Prior to this, he had married and had a son, Russell Terry Jr., who later followed in his father's footsteps and joined the Navy. Electronic technician, 2nd class Russell Terry King died at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, on September 17, 1979, while serving his country. He was 24 years old.
Today we honor Joel Hotchkiss, a member of the class of 1993. Prior to his decision to enlist in the service, Joel had plans to attend Grand Rapids Community College. Those plans were put on hold when he chose to serve his country by enlisting in the Marine Corps. At Camp Pendleton, where he was stationed, north of San Diego, Joel was known as the Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy of Company C because he had an excellent reputation for his music. His rendition of the taps could bring tears to one's eyes. Following his year in the service, Joel continued serving his country through the Marine Reserves. Joel also had plans to continue schooling and to pursue the study of architecture. He and his best friend Keith had dreamed of starting their own company. However, Joel's dreams were left to be fulfilled by others. In December of 1994, Joel lost his life in an automobile accident. Marine Private First Class Joel E. Hotchkiss died in Pullman, Michigan on December 31, 1994. He was 20 years old.
Today we honor Andrew C. Seif, a member of the class of 2006. He was the son of Charlotte Nealis and Carl Seif, brother to Emily, Karen, and John, and husband to Dawn Bredewig Seif, also a West Ottawa graduate. During high school, Andrew attended Marmion Military Academy in Illinois, Catholic Central High School in Grand Rapids, and then finished his senior year at West Ottawa. While in high school, Andrew participated in many different sports, including football and rugby. Kids gravitated to Andrew. He always made time for people, especially those who didn't fit in. He attracted lost souls, his mother recalls. He also loved the outdoors, Boy Scouts, and snowboarding. Andrew did not feel that college was the right fit for him, but the military was. He asked his mom to sign his enlistment papers the summer between his junior and senior years of high school, and then came to West Ottawa to finish high school and earn his diploma,
so that he could join the Marine Corps. Andrew chose the Marines because he had felt they had the reputation of being tough and having rigorous training for the recruits. Andrew loved boot camp, and in the final challenge, a 40-plus mile hike with a 50-pound backpack, Andrew was one of the first to finish, and then he went back to help the other guys. Andrew did 1 tour of duty in Iraq and 2 tours of duty in Afghanistan. In 2012, while serving in Afghanistan, Andrew put his life on the line to save his teammate who came under enemy fire. His heroism earned him the Marine of the Year award from the United Service Organization. On March 10, 2015, just 1 week after being awarded the Silver Star for his actions in Afghanistan, Staff Sergeant Andrew Seif died in a helicopter crash during a training exercise off the coast of Florida. He was 26 years old.
With deepest respect and highest tribute, we're now attentive to the call of the roll. The following West Ottawa High School students died while serving their country, defending the freedom we cherish. Daniel Arizmendez, class of 1965. Robert Canal, class of 1965. Terry Robert Meyer, class of 1965. Robert J. Westrate, class of 1966. Robert Ray Buskell, class of 1969. Russell Terry King, class of 1974. Stephen Brink, class of 1977. Joel Hotchkiss, class of 1993. Andrew C. Seif, class of 2006.
West Ottawa High School, please join me in thanking our veterans once again that are here this morning. Thank you for being here this morning, and make sure you tell any friends. We'll do it again next year. This is one of our favorite days of the year. Thank you to the Vietnam Veterans of America Chapter 73 for allowing us to display the Vietnam Memorial Wall this morning. Students, feel free after the ceremony is done to come up, pay tribute. They will have a few members present if you'd like to ask some questions. A special thanks to our student speakers and our wonderful high school band and choir. Thank you to Mr. Yeager, Mrs. Cheney, Mrs. Cherry, Mrs. Elzinga, and Mrs. Stanley for all of their hard work in putting this event together. We're doing something a little different this year are veterans. The festivities are not quite done for them, so immediately following the ceremony, we're going to ask the veterans to exit these doors over here. They're going to head out to their cars, and they're going to participate in a parade at the middle school. So we look forward to the celebration continuing. This concludes our assembly. Have a great day, and God bless America.